everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name's Hayden.
And this week we heard the calls, we heard the cries. Oh, Teach, Sleep, Repeat. Always so negative. Get red flags. Blah, 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 blah. We're not, but either way, we're going to do this whole episode now about green flags, positivity, good things that happen in schools up and down the country, and things that you can take to your leaders and say, why are you not doing this? Are you ready?
Let's do it.
We've done so many episodes in the past talking about toxic practices, red flags, all that good stuff that people need to hear. And I will constantly defend us and why we do it, right? We're doing it for a reason. It's not just because we like having a moan. Sometimes it's cathartic, sometimes it's nice, but it's also so people out there can see and understand that maybe they're not alone, or maybe something is wrong when they were worried about, are they being taken advantage of? Yeah. So I think it's vital. And we've had a lot of people who maybe see these things online and comment and go, these guys are so bloody negative all the time. Number one, we can't control what the algorithm pushes out there.
Yeah.
Number two, if the algorithm is pushing out there, it's because lots of people want to see it. And you might not want to, and that's fine. Scroll on. However, I do also think that it's important when we do our long form stuff like podcasts, we always talk about solutions. We always talk about ideas as to what can be done instead. And we always talk about why we think it's bad. So this week, we thought we'd do something explicitly about green flags.
Absolutely.
So Hayden, can you explain what we're going to go through and why is it important to also talk about this?
Yeah, sure. So green flags, opposite obviously of our red flags and our red roundabouts. Go back and listen to that episode. We've got green roundabouts. We can have that.
Nah, we'll move on from the roundabout thing.
Yeah, green flags, basically just really positive things that happen in school, stuff that we can celebrate, and we should call out and say, hey, look, this school is doing this, because by the same logic, we can still compare. We can say, if we're in a school that maybe even you think is quite neutral, you might think, oh, this is as good as it gets. Maybe it's not. I'll tell you what, here's some of these things that people have written in for our lovely WhatsApp community. There are some incredible practices out there, and we should say, hey, this is really good. And then also we can discuss it and be like, one, is this realistic? Is this just one of those things where this school manages to do this because of X, Y, Z, and actually it's really hard to replicate this? Or is it something where we go, hang on a minute, why isn't everyone doing this? Or why isn't everyone doing a mixture of these things? So in this episode, we're going to really just big up the great practices and the amazing leaders out there and the amazing school staff in general who do wonderful things for their staff and their children, and just be like, yeah, pat on the back. Let's do more of this, shall we?
And if we possibly can, we'll twist it to talk about toxic things and say, yeah, because it doesn't do this red flag thing.
Yeah.
Because the algorithm needs to be fed.
And then that will go viral. That bit.
Yeah,
just that bit.
Exactly that. So I wanted to start off with what I thought, to me, was the thing that jumped out the most. And it was having a loo policy. No, not going to the toilet when you want, although that'd be great as well. That is green flag. Loo as in time off that you have earned.
Sure.
So I'm going to read this, what someone from our WhatsApp community, as you said, who can join down below if you want to get involved with this, has put in as what they have.
Sure. We
We have a loo policy. We can earn time in loo from doing clubs, events, brackets, yes, even discos, and residential trips. It has allowed me to take off my son's birthday every year, my birthday, weddings, times where I have childcare issues due to his inset days, etc., and days just because. I even managed to take a day off before a half-term holiday so I could go away a day earlier for my honeymoon, saving me hundreds of pounds in flight costs. We can earn as many hours as we like in the year. So last year I had 4 days, in quotes, off. We'll explain why that's not actually off later, and still had more time in the bank. It means that staff are more willing to want to give extra time, knowing they can take it for things that come up without worrying it might be unpaid.
Yeah.
This has been particularly helpful when my son was poorly and I was over my allocated allowance for dependence days. Yes, it's a logistical nightmare sometimes, and it does have its drawbacks, but SLT realised that this is a small price to pay for having staff who are willing to volunteer for experiences that the children in our area are so desperately in need of, and to have staff who are not being so terrified because their best friend booked their holiday on a random Wednesday, having to walk into the head's office begging and pleading for the day off and ending up feeling guilty for doing so.
That should be the norm. And it's wild how that sounds wild. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
It sounds amazing, right?
That sounds, I'm like, oh, wow, that's madness. That's so far at the other end of the spectrum. How can anyone do that? Yeah, that's called normal. That's called normality. You are paid for the time you work. And if your shift changes, you don't then do the original shift as well for free. Like, do you know what I mean? Like if you're now doing a club, or you're going to do this extra experience with the children and it takes up an evening or even a whole night or a couple of days for whatever, you're not then still expected to do
Yeah.
the other shift. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like, I hate the idea that the base is.
I love how you've listened to this and switched right
Yeah.
into toxic.
No,
I hate how schools don't do this.
I will
Let's
not.
talk about how good this is. Come on.
I will. But this is amazing
Yeah.
because it's actually looking at what staff do,
Yeah.
whether you're a teacher, a TA, whatever, and saying those hours count
Right.
and they matter and you're paid for them.
Yeah.
And if you're not paid for those hours directly, we'll take other hours that you are normally paid for and we'll swap it. So in effect, you are paid.
Can I push a bit on this? Because I think you're right to an extent and wrong in a way.
Go for
And
it.
the only reason I think you're wrong in a way is because I want people to understand this, because I don't want them to jump on what you're saying and be like, yeah, see, bloody teachers not going above and beyond. No. You're talking specifically here, and this policy is really good because it is explicitly about things outside of the job role. There are still things within the job role that this school will expect their teachers to do. Planning of lessons, marking of lessons, still things maybe even that seep outside of directed time. We're not saying any time ever you do above and beyond your 1, 2, 6, 5 hours is going to be having to be time in lieu. No, these teachers obviously still have to plan lessons. They still have to do marking. But when it goes past what's reasonable, instead of SLT just saying, well, I'm just going to say it's reasonable. What clearly this leadership team are saying is, well, it's not. I'm asking you to do much more here. If I'm asking you to, directing you to do a club or even volunteering to do extra for our children, I'm going to reward you for that. It's not even a reward really. It's just base zero.
Yeah.
And that's what, I guess what you're
yeah.
coming at, is it, when you're saying this should be normal.
Yeah. I think that was a really good clarification because it's like, yeah, there is still above and beyond. You're still doing extra things outside, like you said, outside of directed time. And it's almost like the school is saying, right, you've got your baseline actual directed time. You've got all the extra stuff you're doing outside of that. Thank you. Appreciate that. There's another layer of above and beyond the above and beyond.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we cannot justify this as reasonable anymore. So I think it's a massive green flag and big props to this school for actually recognizing something that I think we all know is there. We all know it. Every school leader knows secretly that when they're doing these above and beyond things, you can't really justify them as in the reasonable part of the contract. We all know it's more. But for this school to actually say, no, we're going to put a policy in place, not even just like, I think schools we've worked in have like, not necessarily a policy, but we get loo days for certain things where our leaders are clearly thinking about these things, but they haven't kind of put it down into a policy and like really thought about it for the whole year. I think that is a huge green flag, massive win. I would love to work in a school that does that. The fact that they do that makes me think that's probably quite a nice place to work in, because I feel like you wouldn't do that unless you're genuinely quite a good person. You know how like on the flip side, when there's something that's horribly toxic, you think, if they're doing that thing, it's probably toxic in 12 other ways. Same way with this. If this is a green flag, it's probably quite a nice place to work.
If you worked in this school, how much more likely would you be like running a club? How much more likely would it be that you were doing that?
I'd almost definitely do it because I think clubs are great for kids.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
So what essentially is what you're saying, that the only reason you don't necessarily are volunteering right now to do a club is because you just personally think you're not compensated for it. And because there'll be a lot of people online, classic people who are waiting to have a go at teachers in general. And I've seen it before and stuff we've said before when we say residential, should get time back, etc. Where people will be like, scout leaders do it for free. They volunteer. Well, why don't you care about you? It should be just part of your job when you become a teacher. You should know that this is something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
What would you be saying to those people who are like, well, it's such a shame, isn't it, that you're only going to be doing these things that you literally say are helpful for the kids if you're getting this time back? Why does that mean you do it? Why don't you just do it anyway?
Look, I think it's really complex, in all honesty. Like, even just back to your very first question you were about to say, which is, were you not doing them before because you're not compensated for it? The answer is mostly yes. It's a principle. There is a line in everyone's life, it's all personal line, right? Where there was a point in my career where doing the club was a very, very small sacrifice into my personal life. And I'd do it because I just thought it was nice and I'd take the small hit. And there's a time like now where doing a club, pushing my day back by an hour is a much bigger sacrifice because my child goes to bed at like 6:30.
Right.
And that goes from me seeing her for an hour and a half to half an hour.
Right.
It's a huge sacrifice at that point. So at that point, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm sticking to my principle and I'm not going to do it.
But if you do a club and then every now and then you only get half an hour with your child instead of an hour and a half, but on their birthday, you put the day off and spend it with them.
That's what I mean.
That's the payoff. Of course that's going to affect what I do. And in that situation, guess what? The kids get the club and my child gets her dad for the day.
Yeah, for a nice special day.
on.
And there's still a middle ground there where I might weigh it up and think, do you know what? Even though that's a lovely option, I still just want to see my kid for that extra time on the weekly basis. Yeah. But it might not be. At least open at that point. I might actually consider it.
Where your child's birthday's at the weekend and you think, do you know what? I'm going to get this day off anyway.
Exactly,
it's fine. Right. But there might be a year where, your best mate's getting married somewhere. And maybe it's abroad. It's like, God, do you know what? I just need Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. So I am going to accrue this time because I know there's a policy where my time is respected and I'm paid back. One last thing I'll say about this one, because I think this is unbelievable. I think this is fantastic. I really do. And I think it's something every school should strive to do. But again, you will get those people who say, we can't do that. There might be some logistical reasons. And this person even nods to the fact it's a logistical nightmare. But what would be your advice to schools who are just pushing back and saying, we can't do this? And even maybe someone who says, okay, but then the kids don't get you as a teacher for the day. That's worse for the kids. Who's covering it? Is it a teaching assistant covering it for no money whatsoever? That's bad for the teaching assistant. We're just shifting what it's good for and more into the teachers arena of it's good for them. But by doing that, we are maybe shifting it as it's bad for SLT, it's bad for the assistants who are covering, it's bad for the kids who don't get their teacher all week.
Do you know what? I'd rather have a teacher who's happy for 99% of the days and they miss 1% because they've got this thing than a teacher who's miserable for the entire time because they're fed up of the system and fed up of the job they're working, therefore by definition not doing as good job because they hate being in the workplace. I think there's a lot of excuses. There's some things I think are like legitimate counter arguments to stuff where it's like, oh yeah, we should consider this. And some things where I'm just like, it's just that you've just pulled an excuse out of your hat. You've pulled a hypothetical situation and been like, what about this? And I don't know, some of those ones sometimes I don't want to entertain them. I just think, nah, it's just a rubbish excuse. What do you mean? Do you know what? Okay, I'm teacher A, you're teacher B. Teacher B was ill for 2 weeks this year. Are you going to go up to them now and start having a go at them because of how much worse it was with our class not being in? No, of course you're not. They were ill. They couldn't control it. Let's just pretend that one day off I had, I was ill, and then you'll shut up about it because it doesn't really mean anything. Like, you don't really think that. No. You're just trying to think of an excuse to make me go, oh yeah, that is bad. No, it's not. It's not. It's just as bad as someone being ill, which we all agree is a part of life. Yeah. Sometimes people are ill and not in work. Yeah. Okay, cool. I earned a Luda. I did your kid a club for a year. Right. Then I had a day off. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. There's benefits for other people as well, other than just the teachers.
It's so much more to it. Everything is so complex. It's never down to like black and white, like A or B. Then now the kids don't get you for a day. That equals bad, so you shouldn't do it. Okay.
I always think to the teaching assistant point now, which is like, okay, well, who's covering? Is it a teaching assistant who's being exploited, like we said millions of times before, where they're doing the job of teaching the class and being paid barely anything different for it, and it's just a job role where you should get paid a bit more? My pushback to that always is that it doesn't have to be done in a bad way. Like, for example, sometimes when teaching assistants are asked to cover, firstly, they're not even asked, they're told. And it should always be a choice, I think. And I know it is annoying, so you have to get supply in then to do this. Do you know what I mean? If there's no cover. Yeah. But then also I think it's down to schools how they treat their assistants and their cover supervisors. Like, if they're eking everything out of them and getting their teaching assistants to work before and after their contracted hours, that's insane. And that's awful. And that should never happen. I think both of these can exist. I think you can have a really good policy towards your teaching assistants and not exploit them and still give your staff loo days. Yeah. I don't, if someone's saying, well, it's bad for the teaching assistants, so I was like, well, make it not bad for them then.
Yeah.
Don't
force
them to do it. Yeah, exactly. Don't force them to do it. Yeah. And if they do want to do it, don't make them work before and after their contract. Don't just say, oh, well, I know you're on less than a shop assistant is, but can you just do this hour of marking after school in your own time? No, that day, there's no written marking in the book. Change that. You can't use that as a reason to say why you can't do it. Well, we've got a written marking policy and the teaching assistant would have to do that in their own time. Change the policy then.
Yeah, when you're in control of the thing that's telling you to stop doing it, change that. It's more complex. That's what I mean about everything being black and white of like, well, I thought of this, I thought of B because you said A and therefore we can't. No, hang on, there's a C, D, E, F, G, H. There's
actually 26 of them.
There's exactly 26. And when you get to 26, then we've got a problem. All right, because there's no more after that.
We have to do epsilons and stuff.
No, we can't do that. We can't do that. That's the rules. Change the rules. Think outside the box.
Use different alphabet.
But it's true though, isn't it? It's like there's no limit to rethinking how anything is managed and run.
Yeah. And the fact this works in this school, like you said earlier, you were like thinking of things, oh, maybe it only works in that school, it couldn't work in other schools. I think this is the kind of thing where you saying it can't work in my school is something you can maybe make work.
Yeah, it's a you problem. Change the picture. There's other things you can change.
Yeah. Pros and cons. It will be worse in this other way. Okay.
Like, cool. What's worse then?
It might have to be.
So pick then. Do you want kids not to have clubs or do this other way that's worse? Which one do you want?
Well, actually, I want them to have clubs and to take advantage of staff labour. There's your problem.
Okay, yeah.
That's your problem.
And that's why we've got a retention crisis.
Exactly.
Okay, so at some point, you've got to accept, do we want teachers to just keep leaving this job? Yeah. We have the other, it's like a triangle, isn't it? We have this one, you can have this thing. There's downsides to everything.
I love how you said it's like a triangle, then didn't tell me remotely what the other two things are.
Because you said the first two
It's
already.
like a dot. Retention.
The first one was the two we'd already done, which was having clubs
Go on.
and the green flag policy here, having loo day. The other one's okay, right? We don't have this loo policy because you think it affects the other things. So okay, now teachers aren't doing their clubs, and then the both is I want both.
Yeah.
It's okay, cool. Now teachers don't want to work in teaching. It's like there's always a downside. You can't just have both.
Is it an equilateral triangle?
It's
or
probably like a
scalene?
scalene triangle. Yeah.
No problem. So yeah, I think the loo policy, I think what a fantastic green flag policy.
Yeah.
Hopefully we tried not to go too much into the opposite and then for toxic, but we instead saying, let's celebrate it. I think it's fantastic for our teachers. What I think, Hayden, I think we should go on to, because it links, not to be thrown off here,
Okay.
but I think we should go on to Wellbeing Days.
Oh.
Because it talked about something that kind of overlaps here. We had a couple of people write in, Charlotte and Toby, both talked about how in their school they get wellbeing days off a year. They get days off for the sake of days off. Not that you've earned it. It's like a separate thing, time and lieu. But you literally just get time off in term time.
You've earned it intrinsically. Dylan.
Exactly that. It's just by saying, look, do you know what? We appreciate you. Maybe this isn't something that you'd have as well as the loo policy. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe it is just something you say, do you know what? Don't even count it. Everyone gets a day off in term. How important do you think it is as a green flag policy? It's something you would strive to do as a leader in a school, to give people time off in term time, even though there are 13 weeks summer holidays, or school holidays rather. Why is it still really important and such a good thing to do for your stuff?
Look, until I read how many people wrote this in, I was actually quite neutral about it. I didn't realize, I actually genuinely thought, yeah, it's quite nice, but it's just a token. And I almost would have gone down the line of, yeah, I think it's all right. It's clearly a nice thing to do, but it's not groundbreaking. Until loads and loads and loads of people wrote in as their green flag, as the thing that came to their mind of, this is a really nice practice, and I think about it and it's really affected me. The fact that my school provides, even if it's just one day a year, some people wrote in saying they get more, they get like a couple of days, they get one every 2 terms or something like that. It's made me now change my mind a bit, and I'm like, actually, that's clearly a really important thing, because not only does it give them the physical time in term time, which is quite tricky, because when you are limited to term time as a teacher, there are just downsides to school holidays, and you have to adhere by those holidays all the time. Like, there's obviously perks to having holiday from your work in term time, right? We've talked about those before.
Yeah.
But not only is it that, it is the principle as well. A lot of this stuff, I think we've almost established it with the last point, with clubs and the principle of doing it. A lot of it is principle, because we know we work hard and we know we're a really underappreciated profession. So someone just turning around and saying, because you work hard and I appreciate you as your school leader, I know it's just a token and I can't give you the world, but I would like you to have a day off, no questions asked, at some point in the year. That's a really nice thing, and it would make me feel good. And it clearly makes other people feel even better, even more good than I would feel, because I sort of evaluated it as, yeah, it's all right, it's pretty decent. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it's huge. I think the point I was saying, also just alluding to, because the time and lieu thing, I think it's really important for people who aren't necessarily in teaching as well to understand, and teachers who are there feeling guilty about wanting time off in term time. You need to understand that there are just times where having set time off in the year can have a negative, even if you get more of it. Because I am fully aware that people out there listening to someone saying, you get 13 weeks off a year and you're saying you want another day off in term time. Are you ridiculous? Just think about your child's birthdays, weddings of your best mates and stuff like that was mentioned earlier. Just doing your Christmas shopping, going on a Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. There's someone written in here, they get half day for Christmas shopping in autumn too.
That's so cool.
Because they're parents as well. And it's like that you need to go and do your Christmas shopping for your children when you don't have your children. So when you're going at the weekend with all your kids, you can't get childcare, etc. Just having a half day, small things like that. And I think back to our school we worked in, the most recent school we worked in, who introduced this a couple of years ago, just as like a one-off for the year.
The Wellbeing Day. Right?
Yeah, just this. Yeah, exactly that. As, to say thank you for all your hard work, because we just had an Ofsted inspection, and it was saying like, guys, I know so many of you went above and beyond and did so much. Have a day off this year, and it was like really well received, because it's the kind of thing where, sure, we should be, but so many aren't. So you take what you get.
So
and you're
thank
like,
you.
Wow, thank you so much. You did not have to do that. But then what I found really amazing about our leadership was the next year they said, do you know what? This was so well received. We're going to do it again. Yeah. We're going to make it work. No questions asked. You get a day off. You just simply book it whenever you want. We'll find cover, and you don't need to tell us why. You can sit at home all day if you want. Yeah. You can do it on a Friday and have a long weekend. You can do whatever you want. We won't ask you a question. And it had such an impact. And I saw it with my colleagues. And that small thing, I think, goes a long way. And I'm even thinking of, why is it a green flag policy? Well, because my kids will get more out of me. Like, I will be less negative, perhaps, when you're asking me to do extra stuff. I might think, I've got my day off next week. I'll do this 10-minute job right now. Like
Absolutely.
I'm more likely to do stuff for you as a human being if I can see and notice you doing stuff for me.
I'm sure we've read research before, probably in the last couple of years. It might even have been related to an episode that just proved, like from a psychological perspective, that when you feel appreciated, you do more anyway.
Exactly.
It's literally a win-win. If your staff feel appreciated, hilariously, they do the things that you were trying to enforce before, that they're stamping their feet down and saying, I'm not doing this because I'm getting exploited. Yeah. When you just appreciate your staff and show appreciation through that actually properly, not just fake, not pretending to, actually showing appreciation to them. Hilariously, people are more willing to do those things anyway because they feel happy in their workplace. And it's the little psychological hacks like that where I'm like, yeah, do you know what? It kind of isn't. It isn't my life is not now changed because I've had one less day at work of the year. I'm now not burned out from that. But because I feel appreciated, I'm then happy, and then if I'm happy, I'm doing my job more effectively. I'm doing my job more effectively. I'm going home feeling positive. I'm not worrying. I'm not feeling as burned out. Like, it's all just there's so many little things you can do like that where it's not about the actual physical act almost in the end. It's the psychological impact it has on someone to show them that you actually care about them.
Because it's not going to fix the problem, right? If you're in a school where 6 other policies are really wearing you down and you get one day off a year, I can imagine there are some schools where actually it's like, of course I'm going to take it, but geez, can we stop this though? Because the other 5 terms I'm just so run down, and me getting that day off just to relax or see my friend or whatever really helped me for a bit, but like it's not helping me now later on. So I do think like it has to come with lots of other stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's just it's almost a nod, isn't it? It's a nod to that. And the only thing I want to kind of draw comparison to now with the loo policy and the day off is that this very much, the wellbeing day off, is very much a day off. It's very much just like you have the day off.
Take the day
just
off.
Take the day off. I don't care. Every single person in the whole school, in our school, got one. Whether you were a teacher, a teaching assistant, office staff, cleaners, site managers, SLT. If you worked in that school, you got a day off. And at no point was anyone thinking, well, I do much more.
No,
it wasn't. No.
I did all the clubs to earn that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't linked whatsoever. It was just, you're a human being, have a day off work.
We appreciate you.
That was it. Whereas the loo thing, the reason why I think that's really important and can be at the same time, now I think about it, is you are physically doing extra work and you're just getting your time back. And I think that's fantastic because at the end of the day, every single teacher in the world wants the best experience for the kids. Okay, I want my class to get that residential, but I'm not going to make my son at home not get me. So, you know what this does? It at least says, well, if you're sacrificing your own personal time with your son, have some back.
Yeah.
It's not just out of nothing. You've earned it. And I think these two, my goodness me, what a way. If you started in a school and you heard about both of these, immediately I'd be like, this is a place I want to be.
Definitely. So, there's some appreciation here on multiple levels, and it's not just a token. Not just like you said in other schools, there's 8 policies that are against you, and then they've done this one token thing. You see through it, don't you, right? And I know it can coexist because literally in the school we worked at, really bigging up our last school here, but we should, because we didn't have a loo policy, but if we went on the year 6 residential, we did then get a day in loo, and we also had this wellbeing day. So there was a point where I had my year 6 residential day in loo, and I had my loo day, and I took them back to back, and I genuinely had like a really nice, like super long weekend.
Yeah.
No questions asked. It was like, yeah, cool, because I've earned it. Like, you can absolutely have both. So I think schools, leaders, if you're listening, think about it.
Yeah.
Is it something you can? If the answer is no because of another policy, then think about that one as well. Like Dylan was saying earlier, just think more deeply about it. Is it something where you could make 6 or 7 changes to accommodate this with minimal negative impact and hilariously probably overall a really positive impact? Because as we've established, and I'll keep saying it, happy staff work really well and they do great stuff. Like, let's do that.
Exactly. Right, go on, Eddie. You pick the next one.
Another category here I thought was interesting because we had a couple of people write in same sort of light here, which was all about parents' evening. The classic thing, right? Parents' evening. It's immediately implied you're working way beyond the hours of the school day, and it's usually tagged onto the end of a school day. So this person said, online parents' evening. Never thought about that. Where it is impossible for parents to turn up at the wrong time or for appointments to overrun. But it's just, I guess, the fact that they're doing it online, I thought was interesting. What do you think about that?
Well,
rather than face-to-face?
Yeah. Do you know what? I get it. And the online thing is probably from the time where we couldn't meet up for you-know-what reasons a few years ago, where people couldn't be in contact with each other. I think it's a nice way of doing it in terms of you can still talk to them on video call. I mean, you can still see that. I personally like face-to-face. I personally like physically meeting the parents, but I completely understand what Andy's saying here when he wrote into us about online, because essentially how many times when you've been face-to-face, you just get engrossed in a conversation. There are people waiting in that room. And I've had times before where I've tried to stop an overrunning conversation multiple times, and without being really rude, because you want to avoid that obviously with the parent, the parent just keeps talking. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and I was thinking about this. I'm like, oh my God, I have 3
yeah.
minutes past right now. Whereas online, I can imagine it's like, okay, I've got to end this call now.
There's a timer in the corner.
I've got another. Yeah, exactly. I've got another call to come on.
Yeah.
I just think that there are ways of doing parents' evening with green flag policies online and in person.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think what I take from this is parents turning up at the wrong time and appointments overrunning. I'm going to go back to our school again. We loved working in our old school because every single parents' evening we had, there was such a positive senior leadership presence at all times, always walking around, always asking us if we wanted a drink.
Yeah.
Always looking after us, making sure we were
rocks.
Whisper gold on the rocks.
No, whiskey, I said.
Oh.
I don't like where your brain went.
Whisper
gold.
Yeah, as if
Shaken.
that's even a drink.
Not stirred.
Sorry, can you melt me down to 3 Whisper Golds and put it on the rocks, please?
In front of the parents, they're watching you like, what is he talking
Like
about?
teaching my children. My goodness me. Yeah, back to our healthy eating topic. But our leadership team are always there. And what I really, really enjoyed about our leadership team was that it was almost like this unspoken rule. But if at any point leadership thought maybe there might be difficult conversations to have with certain people, they wouldn't come in and make it known and like, I'm here, guys. They'd be around. And you knew, and what I loved about it, I knew that if anything did turn sour or there were some awkward conversations to have, I knew my leadership would back me up.
Yeah.
And that's such a green flag for me, knowing that in parents' evening, you're a team.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes it can feel like you can appease the parents and you can sometimes feel as if it's the parents and the leadership versus you, because you're trying to get something across and you're like, I've got to placate the parent in this sense and I'm like, I get that, but there's something to be said about just having a completely unified front on parents' evening. That's both tricky conversations, timings. I'd have SLT before come along and be like, running a bit late, are we, Mr. Price? And I know for a fact they're not digging me out, they're helping me.
Yeah.
And they say, I'm so sorry, we'll have to wrap
They've
this up.
noticed you've been there for 20 minutes in this 5-minute appointment, and they're like, right,
exactly. So I think that all kind of wraps into the act of doing parents' evening. I think you have to be a united front. I don't think there's one good way of doing parents' evening, but I do think there's one good way of having an attitude towards parents' evening.
Definitely.
That is really, really important.
Someone else wrote in about parents' evening I thought was interesting. It's more about the physical timing side of it. Well, they said early finish on parents' evening days, so the kids actually go home a bit early, so that parents' evening can start a bit earlier at 2 p.m. It gives teachers a small break too. Just a great green flag. I've worked in a school that's done that before. I've known that's quite a common one, I'd say, is just, making the school day shorter so that parents' evening isn't from 3:30 until 9 o'clock, which it very much was not. We had lots of votes in our school over the years of like how we do parents' evening, but we always stuck to that. Whereas I did like working in other schools where parents' evening started literally after lunchtime. Yeah. And that was always nice as well.
It's work at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
It goes back to that kind of like understanding that to me, it's not even like, I'll get some time back from your teaching. For me, it's like avoiding having my work day be 7 till 9:30.
Yeah.
Like, because even for the parents, like if a parent booked an appointment with me at 9:10 in the evening, right? They're not going to get the best version of me.
No way.
I can barely talk and like be coherent myself. Like it's been such a long stretch. And there are always breaks. Like, I want to make this really clear. When we did this, there were always breaks kind of blocked in. We always got food bought for us. And it was literally voted for by the majority of people. Like it was always a conversation. So it's not to think that it was just imposed on us. But I think that's where it gets back to how you do stuff for parents' evening. I think as long as it's always in the mantra of how do I help my staff get through this, what could be a tricky day, a tricky experience for a number of reasons. It seems to me every green flag we got sent in was in that mold of my leadership team are trying to make this as positive as possible and helpful for me.
I feel like there's a very obvious core theme running through this episode, but we'll talk more about it at the end. I think it's pretty obvious what makes a school nice.
Is it a triangle?
Yeah, it's a triangle, specifically a scalene. There's another category that came up a lot, and I did kind of expect this one because I feel like it's just a big topic to talk about, was PPA. So for those that aren't in the teaching world, PPA is our planning, preparation, assessment time. It's that protected time that teachers get outside of the classroom. It needs to be taken rather than teaching. You're given time out of the classroom. It's 10% minimum is like you have a guaranteed. Well, I say guaranteed.
Yeah,
some schools don't even do that.
No, this is a green flag episode.
No, this is a green flag. It's positive. So you're supposed to have 10% outside of non-teaching time. You can do whatever you want. The whole point is not directed. Someone can't come and say this is what you're doing in your PPA time today. It's your time to do whatever you want, whether it fits under planning, preparation, assessment, or whatever you feel like you need.
And
to be
importantly,
doing.
It's never enough time. So it's a nice part of your week because you get stuff done. Yeah. But it's never enough to fully do that. So it's a nod and it's nice. So specifically with PPA, a lot of people wrote in and said they get PPA from home.
Yes.
Hayden, why please, those Daily Mail headline readers say, teachers want 1 day off a week for marking. Can you please explain why PPA from home, in our opinion, would be a huge green flag and a benefit to teachers? Why is it a good thing?
The work's getting done anyway. That's the way I see it. In PPA, whatever that work is you're doing in PPA, you've got to get it done. It's not going to not get done. I think people worry and say, if you send them home, they'll be lazy and do nothing. No, they won't, because they literally can't teach the lessons next week or without doing the work they need to do. So giving them that flexibility is a massive psychological win for those teachers. Going home on a Friday might allow them to do something. Like we talked about having loo days that allows you to go to your kid's birthday or whatever. Having that Friday might allow that bit of flexibility that just makes that teacher's life better, because they are, at the end of the day, stuck to term time working conditions. You've got you know years in advance what days you'll be working, what days you won't. So you can't control that. This gives them a little bit of flexibility. Teachers work at the weekend anyway.
Right. So would you have a problem with someone, if you did a PPA from home policy, would you have an issue with someone finishing on a Tuesday, they've got their afternoon, their PPA, they can go home, but instead of doing work in the afternoon, they go to the gym because there's a gym class they want to join, they go shopping, they pick up their child from school because they don't get the opportunity to do that, they take their child home, they do their dinner, etc., and they do a bit of work in the evening when the child's down, or maybe do their work on the Sunday. Is that an issue to you, or is that a good thing?
It's a good thing. We're giving a little. We're talking the smallest bit of flexibility here. Remember, for the other 9/10 of this week, they are in school, the exact contracted hours, teaching kids, doing what they need to do. We're talking about a 10% of their week where we say there's a little bit of flexibility here, and you still have to get the work done. It's just up to you. I don't think that's the craziest, most groundbreaking thing to do with an employee, to say, "Oh, get this 10% of the work done, but do it when you want."
Yeah.
Because realistically, you're already doing hours and hours and hours of work when you want. That's also expected.
When
we
you
just
want
don't talk about it.
When you want is a bit far. When I want, so I don't want to do this. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's got to be when you want boils down to you can do it on Saturday or Sunday.
So you can either do 2 hours of work on a Tuesday afternoon or 3 hours on a Sunday, or you can do 5 hours on a Sunday.
Yeah,
I don't care. But if it means you get to go to the gym or get some time to do stuff where you wouldn't necessarily before, I would say when PPA being allowed at home, I still hear of people who get that rule, but then they're told, but you can't be seen out. You can't be seen at the shopping centre because there might be a parent there. So don't go and get your nails done, but go home and do work. And I just think you have to be the person to push this rule as normal. You as the leader have to say, go and get your nails done. Yeah. If a parent has a problem with it or sees you or raises something, I'll talk to them and I'll say, oh yeah, of course, it's their PPA time. You might be thinking, why are they not doing their planning? That's reasonable. Genuinely. That is genuinely reasonable. If I saw, if I wasn't in the education world and I saw my child's teacher in, the salon next to me.
When you know your child's at school.
When I know my child's at school, I think it's reasonable to think, what on earth's going on? However, as a leader, I'd be saying, I'm going to explain it to you. Yeah. I'm going to explain this to you.
It's very simple, actually.
Just because you think something doesn't mean we have to pander to it. Yeah. In fact, I can try and explain to you why. If you still have a problem, I'm sorry. That is what we do. If you don't have a problem now, awesome. See you next week. Get your nails done as well.
Yeah.
I just think PPA from home is ultimate. And we've had so many messages from people. And it's where I feel kind of proud of what we've done with the podcast and stuff online, where people have said, thank you so much. I became more brave. I went to my leadership and I asked for PPA from home, and they said, we haven't really thought about it before. Let's see what we can do. And within a week, the whole school had PPA from home.
There we go.
It's the ultimate example of not just going down a rabbit hole in your mind of thinking what someone might say before they've even said it. Don't just assume because something isn't happening, it can't happen, or it's because they're going to be negative towards you.
Yeah.
Most of the time, leaders are amazing people who will think to themselves, oh yeah, okay, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, because they're also really busy.
Exactly.
They haven't thought about it. They haven't thought about it because they're trying to get away with it.
They don't get PPA.
They just they're not in that. Whatever.
Of course, good leaders will always think about it, but that you can be a good leader and be like, oh crap, let's see what we can do.
Let's put something in place, and if they do it, then that's a good sign, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, let's try. How about try this one? Same person. Go to your leadership and ask for 20% PPA.
Right.
Because this is another one. This one to me was a bit more like, whoa.
Yeah. And we've had this previously. I don't know if this is the same person, but this is one of our most viral reels.
Yeah.
Was about how PPA should look. And in their school, I think this is it. Schools that look at the 10% PPA rule as a minimum and not a target, to me, are schools who are doing it right. Schools who think, where else can I release my staff to do their job? I know for a fact there isn't enough time in the day to get the job done as a teacher. I know they're working at the weekend. I know they're doing extra. 10% is the minimum. Where can I stretch this? And most of the unions will suggest 20% for PPA time. I think if you gave, some schools who do have 20% PPA, which is a whole day every week, I think that's fantastic. This kind of spreads to me a bit more into, I've seen enough people say, as leaders of schools, we literally could not afford to do this.
Yep.
So I do really understand it when people are like, look, this is fantastic, but we physically can't do that. I reckon there are probably some examples here where schools just can't do this, okay?
No, yeah.
And there might be other schools who, for whatever reason, however they are logistically set up, maybe they can. I don't know enough about it. All I can say is that it's the ultimate green flag policy to me, because it's the ultimate version of what we're just saying. There isn't enough time in PPA to get this job done. So the more PPA you can give your staff, you should be doing that.
Absolutely.
It should never be, where can I squeeze PPA? Bloody hell, it's 10.5%, get rid of 10 minutes. I've heard of schools who have said to their staff, okay, you can have morning PPA, but we need you back in the classroom at 11:45 for the last 20 minutes of the lesson before lunch. Honestly, like, I want to say a lot of words to that. If you are forcing your staff back into the classroom for the last 20 minutes because it goes above their 10%, then if they have that extra 10, 15 minutes before their lunch when they're off anyway, sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Look at yourself. Get a life.
Because that's not even for the kids.
No,
there's no situation where that's
kids.
not more disruptive.
Right.
Just for the last 20 minutes, they're probably just doing their task at this point, whatever
As if
it
they're
is.
so resentful to give any time to their staff. I think that's horrendous. And I'm slipping into red flag again. What I'm saying here is just those schools that go above and beyond, in the same way teachers go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Those schools who reciprocate that, and that's the kind of thing we're going back to here, and give 12%.
Yeah.
Or just, every now and then just book in a bit of extra time. Just to say, oh, do you know what? You've got this afternoon off this term.
Yeah, or they just know it's more than 10%. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Where they're like, we guarantee this 10%, we've done a bit more, we don't even add it up. We know it's more than 10% though.
Exactly. And again, going back to our school, we had every single term sports mornings where children would get extra PE with PE coaches who would come in and do it, and were paid to do that. And as teachers, the reason was we weren't getting 10% PPA.
Yeah, I think this is really important.
So this is we worked in a very lovely school, but we were not getting 10% PPA.
Yeah.
10% is a minimum. We were getting like 8.5%, 9%.
Yeah, it worked out like 9.
And do you know what? Maybe it was half an hour maximum that we weren't getting, but that's important. It's a minimum. It's not just a minimum of just maybe a bit less.
And a bit less.
No, it's a minimum. So it was brought up, very receptive leadership. We needed it to be 10%. Booked this time, which took us past 10%. They didn't sit there calculating more. I wonder exactly how 10% could be. It needs to be 12 and a half more minutes. And then no, what happened was they went, oh Christ, yeah, we need to go past this. Booked us that time, put us comfortably above 10%. And it wasn't nitpicking at stuff. And I was like, thank you, appreciate that. It was a classic example of not someone being malicious whatsoever, but simply someone not understanding or not knowing, finding out, changing it. Green flag.
And it was in quite an effective way. It just kind of shows there's lots of ways to do it, rather than going, okay, we need to do at least 12 more minutes a week. They were like, okay, look, we actually can't. The way our school works, it would be really awkward to give everyone weekly this extra 12, I'd say 12, made up
whatever
12. It could be 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it would have been awkward to do that because the way our PPA worked was we had an entire session out.
Yeah. And
that session was that length, and it would have been harder to change that session length. So the school said, okay, let's make up the time with, like you said, we had a sports coach day every single term, and they come in and we get the entire day out.
Yeah.
It was great. And like you said, it did, if you added all the hours up, it took us more than 10%. But it was an effective way to get that extra 1% we were missing, because now we got an entire day off, and actually you could achieve loads of stuff. I looked at that as like, right, this is my bulk PPA day.
Yeah.
I was like, what PPA jobs that I would like to do in bulk will I do? Because I'll do that now, because I've got this one day off a term, and I'll do all this printing, all this, whatever it was. I was like, I just want to do these things, but I want to do them all at once.
But did you find as well, alongside that, let's say you have PPA from home, etc., it's great. I found those days there really good opportunities once a term to get together with my team, my other people who are planning English, and think, hey, next term, what's our medium term plan? What books are we picking?
Yeah.
What books are we going to do? What are we going to cover in our writing? And that was just like, but then that was just an hour. I had the rest of the time still. Yeah. Like it was enough to touch base. It meant we didn't have to do weekly after school meetings in year groups. Pointless. Completely pointless. Didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
I could, every term we could touch base and be like, well, we've got our sports morning out. Let's touch base. Let's think about the next one. And I just think, it comes back to 10% is a minimum. Any schools that are looking to extend that in whatever way they can, huge green flag. And absolutely. I think, not lazy teachers, but instead just giving them something back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Appreciating your staff. It seems to be a theme. Here's another one for you. Similar-ish, I guess, from Catherine. It says, we have inset days for report writing at home.
This is huge,
so
right?
Similar to the whole PPA at home thing, an inset day for report writing at home. Report writing is like, some schools will do it multiple times a year. Some schools do it just once per year, and we'll send a written report back to parents. Bane of my life. My whole career, honestly, was one of the worst experiences, purely because, not because I don't like writing nice things about kids, it's because it was always just kind of like just get this done now as well. And it's a massive job. It's not an insignificant job writing genuine reports for people. Yeah. Obviously, we've had lots of advancements now and things like AI helping us structure our thoughts, but you're still feeding in. You still need to know the child. You can't just say to AI, write this report, please, for this child that you don't know. It doesn't work like that. That's what people seem to think happens. You still have to give it all of the intricate details about a child, even if it is just put into a paragraph for you. Having some time off to do that is the ultimate appreciation for me, because I'm like, always completely hated and resented the idea that it was ignored that I have to do this massive job. Like, more than anything, there's loads of jobs that get ignored and where everyone just pretends that we're not doing it at the weekend. But that
it's
one
report
for me,
writing time. I guess I just have to give up my life for this week.
Yeah, like that one for me was always like that's a kick in the teeth. It's like, you know how long I'm sending you the Word document that's 20,000 words at the end of it. You know how long that's taken. Why are you pretending like I didn't need time for it? Mental. Completely. So that was a lovely one to see. Inset days.
One linked with Inset Day, because it's like to do with staff training in general. We had a few people talk about staff training as well. I think using that time effectively and not being scared to think, well, I need to get a CPD certificate at the end of it. That's okay for an Inset Day to be about report writing. It's also okay for staff meetings to not happen unless they need to. There's this huge green flag policy that I think is fantastic, which is where their SLT will say, we don't need the staff meeting this week. End. Like, that's the end of it. There's no discussion. Cool. It's not, oh gosh, no, we've not got something in there. What can we do? Let's get what's his name to do geography one. No, none of that.
Filling it for the sake of it.
Yeah, we're not doing it for the sake of it. And also, this was one that was written in. No staff meetings is something else is on, like a school disco. Like some kind of parents' information evening. Absolutely, it's all about balancing your time. If you've got a disco and you want your staff to come to it, say to them, anyone who comes to the disco won't have to do the staff meeting. Brilliant. Like that's just, it's just taking people's time seriously. And a huge one in staff training was to do with a directed time calendar. Hayden, I want to pass it over to you.
Yeah, sure.
Why is a directed time sheet, a directed time calendar, such a green flag policy? We talked about, paying back staff for their time, but why is this a green flag? And Tim talked about how once it was given, staff meetings now were 3:20 to 4:20. And previously they finished at 5 p.m.
Yeah, sure. So just to be really clear, a directed time calendar is basically it should be from your leaders. It is a calendar that shows you for the whole academic year where your directed time is being allocated. Literally says, these are the hours that we are directing you to do for the whole year. It adds up to, was it 1265?
1265.
1265 hours for the whole year. And they're just basically saying, they're just literally verifying that you're doing your job and they're not taking the mick.
Right.
A lot of schools from conversations either don't have a directed time calendar at hand, or they did it maybe years ago and it's changed a bit and they have to rethink about it. And I can tell from this person who wrote in, just prompting the school to look at it. If you've got reasonable SLT in the same way we talked about SLT earlier, that might not have been thinking about PPA. And then when you talk about that, like, oh yeah, actually, of course, yeah, you can do it from home. Well, I just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
When you prompt them to think about, can I have the directed time calendar for the year? They might actually go away and be like, oh yeah, I haven't looked at that in a while. Look at it and realize that it goes over. And then make changes like this. Staff meetings are now 3:20 to 4:20, having previously finished at 5 p.m.
40 minutes.
That's epic.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah. And if they don't want to do it, if they say, no, I'm not providing that, then you know you're in a different, it's a different situation
and then you need to add up yourself.
Exactly.
And then go with them with the adding up. But yeah, the reason why it's such a green flag policy is because if you have that directed time calendar, it's more likely to have a knock-on effect on everything else. And I think, just to be really clear, directed time here, teaching counts as directed time.
Yeah.
So much of that 1265 is taken up by literally just being in the room with the kids.
Yeah.
So where it's really, really useful to have that directed time calendar is for everything else. Like, there's not much wiggle room after that. So when you're being asked to do an hour after school every week for staff training, and if you're in a school where you also have a year group meeting that is forced upon you, like you have to meet with your year group after school.
You've got a morning meeting on the Monday.
You've got parents' evening, etc. on these certain days.
You've got to do 3 duties a week.
Right. This is where directed time calendar is really important, because it's the kind of thing where if you've gone over, you look at that and you go, let's drop the year group meeting every year. I know, of course it would be good. Do you know what else would be good? To meet the parents every day after school.
Yeah, give them
of course that would be great. Yeah, have a one-to-one chat with every parent every single day. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Yeah, but it being good isn't enough to justify going past my contract. So if it goes past 1265, guess what's being dropped? The year group meeting every week. Because I tell you what, I worked in a school for 7 years where we didn't do a year group meeting at all ever after school, and we found ways around it, and we still communicated with each other, and we still got stuff done. So, we just have to do it. No, we don't. What we have to do for a green flag for a fantastic school, they're very clear directed time calendar that every staff can see and is transparent and is honest. And if it goes over, they all work together to reduce it. The very, very big green flag for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Very easy one to implement as well.
Yeah.
So I've had another one. I'm going to read this one to you, Dylan. I want you to digest it and think about it as I read it. It's from Tom. This is not a policy, but more of an ethos. We tell the children to turn up and try your best. And this is the message I'm trying to communicate with my staff. So I was immediately interested because I think, oh, this is from a leader. I want them to try new ideas, be bothered about the children in their class, and do their best for them. Anything else that members of staff put in is a bonus. Turn up, do the work, go home and be with loved ones. That's it. Some days we will go home and think about how we've absolutely smashed it, and some days we will have given it our best shot, but missed the mark. Both are okay. If our best effort one day looks different to another day due to illness, workload, worries, or something else, whatever, that's okay.
How refreshing and lovely and brilliant is it hearing a leader say something like this? This, I think, definitely is an ethos thing. And this kind of runs its thread through everything we talked about in terms of green flag policies in school. This is where all of those green flag policies come from.
Yeah.
They come from a place of people in positions of power in schools, like Tom, who clearly really care, not only about the kids, but about the staff as well at the school. And I think when you have that, it's just such a nice, lovely environment to be in. And that's when teaching's amazing, is when you are looking out for the best interests of your children, your class, and you know for a fact that leadership are looking out for you. And I just think what Tom said here is perfect, where it was the end. If our best effort one day looks different to another day, that's fine. Yep. I think that's so true, because I know for a fact I can give my best every day for a week, and I'll have different outcomes every day, and things will go well one day and sometimes they'll go badly another day, and even my capacity will change. And what is giving my best on a Friday, for certain reasons, I might have had some bad news that morning, my best is still good enough, and I don't need someone at my door saying, well, why did you do that? No, this ethos is so nice, and I love it when we treat staff with the same understanding and the same high expectations still as we do our children.
Yeah.
I'd work for someone like Tom.
Absolutely. I've always said it, and I'll keep saying it. I think schools, and every time I say it, it's like, oh, controversial. It's not. Schools should put their staff first. You need to treat your staff well, because guess what? It is a trickle-down effect. Your staff are the people in control of the children you care so much about. So by thinking of it that way, I need to make this environment amazing for my staff. I'm not saying don't think about the children. Of course, you could take that and warp what I'm saying. I'm saying think about your staff as much as you think about your children. Put them in your mind straight away, because if they are really happy people, they will do amazing things with the kids that you care so much about. It works in tandem, like basically what you said at the start of that. It shouldn't be we only think about the kids and then we try and negate some of the horrible effects that it has on staff. Oh, we want the kids to have all this stuff. Oh, staff are going to moan because they've got to do all this. What can we do? Oh, let's give them one wellbeing day, but tell them they've still got to do all these 19 things. It's the wrong way of thinking about it. You shouldn't do it like that. So massive green flag. Leaders who actually care and have deep compassion for their staff, and obviously by default their pupils. We know that bit. It's okay to say you can care about your staff as well. Is really good. So we had another person write in the same sort of light about sort of the ethos and attitude. I thought was interesting because it was a bit more to the point about things you can do. Jessica said, team building nights out, inset day team breakfast, verbal feedback policy. You can see you nodding along to that one. These are just a few to name at my school. It's a single form entry, multi-academy trust school, and I'm a Key Stage 1 phase lead. I thought the context was actually quite important, because I think sometimes people say, oh yeah, you can do it in big schools because you've got more leeway, you've got more staff to put in these nice things. But actually, this is a single form entry school. This is by definition a smaller school. I know some of these things aren't really related to that, but yeah, you can. Of course, you can still do nice things in a smaller school, even when you have physically less staff.
I want to go through the three things she talked about, because it's just to name a few, and they're all positive. And I love these green flag policies where it's like it's almost like an offer. Sometimes it being an offer is a green flag, because, for example here, team building nights out, right?
Yeah. It's
an offer. The school is saying, I'm organizing this if you want to do this.
You have to come.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I mean. It can like green flag nice policies can become annoying when they're forced down you. It's like, no, I want to go and see my son that night.
Yeah. No, put it in my director time calendar, mate. Put team building nights in my director time calendar. I'm there every time.
It's so true. Like, like the darts you can get, like with the augmented darts, where you're trying to do your night out stuff like
absolutely.
Put that in there, my director time. But yeah, I think it's the offer of doing that. Inset day team breakfast. Just put a spread on.
Yeah.
Like, you just do it. Verbal feedback policy then is where I'm saying sometimes a policy is just a policy. It's not an offer, but it's still green flag, because in doing verbal feedback, you are saving your staff time. You say, no, do this. If someone wrote something in a book once, do you know what? It might be, I actually say to them, don't do that, please. And that might annoy some people. So I do think there are some times where green flags can be an offering. We're going to do this because of that reason. Do it if you want to. But also, we are going to do this as a whole because it helps most people out.
Like systemic things almost.
Exactly.
Like you've got like the token of appreciation ones.
Yeah.
Those show you that I do care about you and I want you to make sure you're valued. And then the ones that's like, this is fundamentally going to change how working at this place is.
And the issue comes where the kind of tokenistic ones are the only thing you do.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes an issue because, they're offers and you doing that night out doesn't help me because I've got my child to go home and put to bed. But you're using that then to say, well, we did that night out, guys. So can you do all this, please? It's like, that's not enough. It can't be on its own. So like, we had other people mention, Carl messaging saying subsidized cake and biscuits in the staff room. That's important. If you subsidize my Whisper Golds in the classroom, in the staff room, I'm going to be really happy.
Like cake and biscuits. I'm not sure it falls under the category, mate. I'm sorry, Whisper Golds.
Weekly shout outs in the staff newsletter. Treats during staff meetings, treats during parents' evening.
Yep.
All of these things are great, and I don't want to degrade them at all. And I think they are part of the ethos. Let's go back to what Tom said about an ethos. That is part of the ethos. However, if you just do those tokenistic things, it doesn't make up for it. That's why the Lou Day policy is so good. We talked about earlier. That's why the Wellbeing Day is so important. That's why PPA being as much as it can be in your school is really important.
Yeah.
All of these things stem from that ethos. It will include tokenistic things. Book me a yoga class if I want it. I've always said forced yoga is annoying, but what I'm not saying is yoga's bad. What I'm saying is when you say I've booked you yoga later, you've got to come, and therefore I've justified everything else because I've done your well-being. That's bad.
It's so funny because it's like, I feel like you've made it so clear in my head now about that, like separating it like that. Because I'm like, the yoga's not bad. It's great, but it doesn't solve the systemic problem, which is I'm marking for 6 hours every night. And that's the thing affecting my well-being.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, well done. You've put a plaster on my well-being with yoga, but can we just, why don't we do both?
Yeah.
You can offer me yoga and also address the actual issue of my well-being, which is the marking in this case. And then, you've got a great, okay, this school's come in. We're effective. We're changing this with a verbal feedback marking policy. We're going to try that. Thank you. Yeah. That's really nice. Oh, and you're still supplying treats on a staff meeting. That's really nice as well. I feel so appreciated. I want to work at this place. What a green flag school to work in.
Exactly. I think it comes down to that. The systemic stuff and the bits where like they're tokenistic but they're nice. I want to just summarize this now. Supportive SLT. Supportive SLT to me, if I'm working in a school and I've got supportive SLT, and it means everything we talked about, parents' evening, nice things, literal policy. You can umbrella all of that under supportive SLT. And I think that for me is kind of the green flag ultimate is when you're working for someone who cares about you.
Yep.
I think it has such an impact, and lots of these things stem from that. And that's how I'd summarize it. Yeah.
And thank you to all of you out there that genuinely provide places of work like that. And we know you exist and we hear you, and that's why we wanted to do this episode, because you know what? We're very aware that sometimes the clips from our podcast that go viral are the ones we're moaning or talking about something toxic, because people can relate to that and they feel the pain and they want to hear about that. Oh, what's wrong?
Hayden.
What?
I just realised.
What?
Not one of the clips from this episode is going to go viral.
Oh no, we're not even uploading them.
We'll have to scrap it. Did the guys do a podcast this week? Yeah, we did. But Instagram killed them.
Instagram killed it, yeah. But no,
right.
we do appreciate you guys, and thank you for listening as well.
Thank you so much. And if you've got this far into the episode, why not share this with someone who find it useful? Leaves a review. Hayden, you've had a bit of time to think about your I've asked you to say
ending.
something. Yeah, something really interesting and fun. Over to you.
Well, I was actually just laughing in my head there, thinking you should share this with someone who you know does work in a toxic school as a bit of a passive-aggressive dig, so they can listen to it and be like, "Oh, you don't do any of these things. How funny! What a coincidence!"
There's our toxicity. Or to a leader who you know will think that this is tosh nonsense. Don't do any of this stuff. It's rubbish.
There we go. Has to make it negative. Cheers, guys.
Bye.